Why aren't more buildings integrated? Why are we seeing that integration is typically just pulling in a chiller or maybe a lighting system? And these integrated buildings, although they exist, are very few and far between. Hi, my name's Phil Zito. I'm the founder and CEO of Building Automation Monthly, where we help businesses to develop their technical staff through skill assessments and customized training in order to decrease their time to revenue and increase their profitability per employee. So I was browsing through LinkedIn the other day and I saw a couple posts pop up about why are we not seeing more integrated buildings, and are integrated buildings even the future? And it got me thinking, based on my background with integration, having worked with some of the most marquee integrated buildings, and having also seen a lot of integrations fail during the implementation phase, why aren't there more integrated buildings? And it stems down to three things. First is there is no consistent methodology as well as technology for integration across multiple building systems, not to mention systems that are non-building systems like business systems and systems that are related to actual specific industries like healthcare, transportation, etc. So since there's no standard methodology, every manufacturer kind of has their own different approach. And then on top of that, we also have no consistent form of communicating between all these different devices. That kind of positions us where we're already behind the curve if we want to do an integrated building. So how do we resolve that? Well, a lot of folks will tell you, use an integrated division specification. Problem is that without proper owner engagement, which we'll talk about in just a second, you can't really develop integrations that have any business value. Which brings us to number two. Integrations need to have business value. Okay, you're tying your lighting system into your building automation system. That way you can control your lights through your BAS. That's a very minimal business value. I mean, let's just be real. Okay, so you're saving a couple hours by being able to go and turn things on from a single interface. The business value, that's not a big deal. Now, if you're able to create an intelligent classroom that really optimizes the learning environment by utilizing different colors of lights based on circadian rhythms and monitoring the CO2 and also tying in not only with that demand ventilation approach, but also with some noise stimulators, either through white noise, etc., to kind of make the learning environment more engaging, that actually has a business value. However, doing that, it requires largely the same integrations, right? Lighting and BAS, and now we're talking about some noise integration as well. But the thing is, the big difference is that an owner was involved in that use case development and adopted the use case, and then that use case was put into the specification and developed. I see that as the biggest disconnect between the success of integrated buildings. A lot of the integrated buildings you'll see being marketed out there were actually sold, at least in the beginning, were sold at a loss or sold at cost. And that wouldn't be something that folks could scale. They were just mainly used as marketing platforms. Ooh, look at this building. I mean, you look at certain buildings, I'm not going to name any, and you actually dig into them and you realize there's no way these projects could have been executed profitably, and actually the owner's encountering issues after the fact. So really, we need to focus on those use cases, because the use cases will allow us to know what we need to do, and then we can pull technology together. And number three is we've got to look to the home industry. I never thought I would actually say this because in the past, we have driven, the commercial industry has driven a lot of adoption of technology in the home space. But now we got to look at how the home space is starting to develop its market. We look at how things like the Alexa framework or the Google Home framework, how they are developing ecosystems of partners that can integrate together. That's where our industry is going. We're going to have ecosystems of partners. The problem is that a lot of OEMs are so focused on protecting their own turf that they don't want to adopt a common protocol, a common architecture that is required in order to utilize these technologies. You see, as a consumer, I can go to Home Depot and make a decision instantly on a low-priced, relatively product, and then tie it into my building or my house. So the threshold of that buying decision is much lower, whereas in commercial buildings, we often go through a tendering process, a design process, etc. So to go one-to-one saying, hey, home technologies and that approach, it doesn't necessarily equate to the commercial industry. And that's the biggest issue we're running into here that not a lot of folks are talking about. Is they say, look at the home industry. Look at all these things you can do with your house. Millennials are going to want this because they have it in their house. Well, yes and no. They want it because they can make a quick, easy decision. You can't do that on scale with large commercial buildings. The first company that figures out how to take the low-cost decision model that is home intelligence and applies it to the commercial world will win big. They will make massive profitability because at that point it becomes a transactional purchase and it doesn't have to go through bid processes and things like that. So that's where smart buildings are going. So if you're wondering where smart buildings are going, how you can implement them, right? You have to realize first that it doesn't have to be an end-all be-all. Realize that a lot of the technologies don't work natively together, that we need use cases in order to drive a business value from the integration, and also realize that we are probably still a good 5 to 10 to 15 years before we get a technology ecosystem that allows us to really lower the barrier of adoption of technology in our buildings. There's a lot of stuff to think about. I'd love to have a conversation with you in the comment section below the video. Thanks a ton. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.